right, I'll call this meeting to order. It is Wednesday, August 13th, 2025, and it's 10 a.m. and you're here for the budget workshop for the Sheriff's Office. So I will turn it over to the Sheriff's Office and then the clerk.
Okay, Madam Clerk, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you guys?
Good. So the reason why we called this meeting today is to show the preliminary numbers. Madam Clerk, the as it was called, the worst case scenario budget. That's what we're presenting today, is the numbers from that. I just want to preface the meeting that we don't agree to any of this. We're not saying this is what we're willing to do or anything of that sort. We're just showing what we were asked to provide, which was in the amount of cuts up to $930,000. And so to begin, Undersheriff is going to go through the budget and what we figured out as far as numbers, what we could cut of the $930,000. So we're going to go line by line on what we decided to pull from that budget as a preliminary number, and then after we're done, we can go over how that impacts services.
Okay, real quick, is it 930 off of like last year's budget, or are we talking about
pretty much, yeah,
your proposed budget?
Madam, can you answer that?
The proposed budget?
It's near 900 off of last year's budget, because I think last year they were at 5.1, right around there, if I remember correctly. Oh, well.
I think the Justice
It
Fund's
will
been
tell
hitting
us.
about 5.5, 5.6, 5.5 last year for the Justice Fund.
Last year with, it was 5.5 last year, 5.5 last year, and that included public defense, 75,000 for public defense. And this year we've got 55,000 that we've pulled out for public defense. It's in the Justice Fund, 9.4 public defense, but we still have the money to cover that. So it's not that 55,000 isn't coming out of their cash.
Okay. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. I just wanted to.
No, you're good. So just to preface, we're primarily dealing in the sheriff budget and the jail budget. Mm-hmm. The building budget, there's not really any room to give. We have one maintenance guy and one cleaning person that works part-time, and then all the rest is just your sewer, water, and a little bit of maintenance. There's really, so that budget really isn't changing. That's pretty much agreed upon. The 911 budget's pretty much agreed upon and set. Mm-hmm. So we're not really.
This would just be the sheriff's office.
This
Sheriff
is mainly just the sheriff
In the jail.
budget and the jail budget is okay. So pretty much when it came to those areas, we were told we're $930,000 short, and so that was after like 3 different meetings. The number kept going up and down. So last one was 930,000. So we just. We're like, all right, we'll show you what 930,000 in cuts looks like to our office. So just going down if you look at this sheet, just kind of goes across fiscal year 2025. That's what we're currently at, and then the next line over 26 is what we're recommending for the cuts if we were going to do them. Or how we see it. The only way we could really make it work. And then to get to the $930,000 number. And then in the kind of orangish is how much that line would be cut. And then in the, here's yours. Right here. Gonna give you one.
Thank you.
Yep. Then the green is that budget area, salaries, benefits, expenses, and so on. So going across, first line, elected official, the sheriff, cutting that from $86,963 to $80,000. That's a $6,963 reduction. Next is in the office deputies. That's reducing my salary by $21.79 from. So we'll both be reducing our salaries a little bit. Next is the field deputies, going from $1,295,227 to $908,412. That's a reduction of 6 patrol deputies, $386,814.11. Next line is dispatch, a reduction of $53,056. That's cutting 1 dispatcher. Next line is reserve officers. We kept a little bit in that, so we can try to get them to help out a little bit, and the few reserves we do have, but cutting that from $72,000 to $30,000. $42,000 cut. The next line is removing the court security officer. So that's a $39,943 cut. With that, the overtime we cut slightly. Some of these you think it would impact it more, but we're actually struggling to stay under in some of them already. And once you cut positions, you're actually going to have a little people working more overtime to help fill. So we did an $8,000 cut in the overtime line. We didn't really adjust the holiday work or anything because we're already over in that line as it is. We're always seem to be a little bit underfunded in that line. Then going down, continuing into benefits, we just made the cuts. These aren't exact numbers, they're approximations, just trying to anticipate what actual employees are making that we'd be cutting and all that. And so we didn't have like a spreadsheet made up or anything where I could just punch it in and it would pop up or anything. So we just kind of went off the percentages. But in the retirement, it's about a $67,000 savings. Social Security and Medicare, that'd be about a $36,700 savings. Medical insurance, about $144,000. We just figured that off of the mid-tier medical, so it could be more or less depending on if most of them are probably in the family plan, but we just did it at the mid-tier. So the savings could be a little more on that. The BIBA, $6,000 cut off of that. Dental insurance, $16,699 off of that. The state unemployment, $5,997. Workman's comp, $12,469, and then life insurance about $813. Then continuing on down, so there's a few areas that would be affected by those cuts going down into the expenses, and I just kind of cut them proportionately, trying to account for what we're currently spending, because what we're seeing is trying to cut in the expenses over the prior years. It's leading us a you look at to where our budget's sitting now, some of these lines are already reaching close to 100%, with us being about 85% of the way through the year. So I just kind of tried to guesstimate based off what we're spending now. If we reduce 6 less patrol deputies on the road, or so on, what's it going to look like? And so, going down the expenses, the administrative fee, cut it out. That's $15,000 out of the Justice Fund. Miscellaneous supplies, just cut it to 800, or cut 800 out of it, from 6,800 to 6,000. The telephone I have highlighted red because I don't know how that's going to sit, because we just got cell phones for all the deputies, and I don't know what the contracts look like, if we can get out of them. But that'd be 6 deputies that wouldn't need a cell phone. So I don't even know, that's not even like in the current budget, so that number could go up or down a little bit. That's why I just highlighted it. Not sure where it's going to sit yet. The fuel line, we're going over a little bit in it this year, so I cut 5,000 out of it. I was just conservative with that cut because you just don't know where fuel's going to end up, and I don't want to leave us short. Vehicle expense, our vehicle expense for maintenance has been exorbitant this year. So I figured if we'd be able to cut about 5,000 out of that and be able to get by. Going on down, there's no other changes till you get to uniforms and badges. We cut 3,000 out of that. Training, cut 6,700 out of it. Equipment, cut 8,000. For a total cut of $872,313 out of the sheriff budget. Any questions about that before we go to the jail?
You want to save the questions on impact
Yeah.
till the end?
Yep, we'll just kind of go over what all we're looking at cutting, and then we can hit on that.
Okay.
So the jail, we didn't have a lot of things we could cut other than employee, because if you've looked at the jail budget recently, we're struggling to get by with the costs. Our jail medical is way over budget this year. I think we're already at like 150%, like 50,000 over, stuff we can't control. The inmate food, just the food costs, we're struggling to stay under that. Just there's several areas. So the only cut we made in the jail was another detention deputy. We already cut one detention deputy on the last year's budget. This will be the second detention deputy we cut.
And how many do you have total?
So we have 11. This will take us down to 10. That's not including the captain. So 11 with the captain.
We currently have 3 vacancies that we're having a problem filling.
So you have 12 now, we're cutting down to 11, is that what I understood? That's with captain?
With the captain, yep. So the cuts for that, one new detention deputy, we figured it roughly about $47,940. Because they start out about 21, 22, but in that first year they'd be making 22 something when they go to the academy. So I just figured it at that 22 level roughly. And then the additional savings you get from that, roughly $32,000 from the benefits and all that.
May I ask?
Mhm.
The jail fill-in, were we brought that in when you were so low, and that's how we were tracking, your patrol deputies.
Oh, I didn't even notice it was left in there.
Do you want, there wouldn't really be a need for that, right? So there's
Well,
45,000 or 48,000.
Probably not, because there wouldn't be any patrol deputies to fill in, so.
Okay. So line 403-0002, fill in jail,
Would be removed.
will be removed. So there's, so then I can propose that some of that, being that was budgeted, I mean, it's, is perhaps, the courthouse security. I budgeted for half of the courthouse security. If you could pick the other half up, and that would be the other half. I think I did 22 or 25,000 plus obviously the benefits.
I think that would be a better suited conversation for the time where we started to hone in on what the actual budget would be. I mean, at this point, we're
Okay.
just trying to show you what
Okay,
the 930 would look like.
okay.
So the total cut in the jail is approximately $80,000 minus that 48 too, so. I didn't even see that was in there still.
Mm-hmm. I didn't know.
Taking the total without that 48,000 additional, it's to 952,373,000.
All right, with that, I'd like to go into impact on what a $930,000 cut to the sheriff's office budget, how that would impact services to the community. Before I do that, I want to point out a few things. One, Shoshone County is a little over 2,600 miles. That's a huge county. So we have that to consider, the northern part of the county and the southern part of the county with St. Joe. Last year, so for 2024, we were dispatched to 7,571 calls. That doesn't include what we've done in traffic stops, which is a proactive approach to law enforcement. That's around 3,000, almost 4,000 traffic stops. And our deputies took 898 reports, and that's pretty considerable for the size of agency that we have.
Could you say that one again, please?
Which one?
The last one. How many?
Reports, 898. And the thing that's important to mention about the reports is that, you know, a report isn't just sitting down and typing a report. That's an active investigation. So, you know, depending on whether you're working if it were an information report, you know, and we're just documenting something, that you can pretty much knock it out pretty quickly. If it's a misdemeanor crime, those don't take too long, but they still take a considerable amount of time. But if it's a felony, I mean, you're looking at, you know, interviews, follow-ups, going to Coeur d'Alene for forensic interviews, things like of that nature. So they can be pretty lengthy. So the number is a little deceiving considering the amount of time that these investigations take. And speaking of that, so the Idaho State Police put out their 2024 ranking for crime in Idaho. And I thought it would be important to mention. So last year, they measure 3 different things. They measure the reportable crimes, which are like crimes against property, crimes against people. There's a list that I have provided for you guys here. This isn't the actual crimes. I'll have to provide that differently. But this is where we fall this year. And I'm sorry it's not in color.
Finally made the top of someone's list.
So in 2024, if you look down at the bottom here, where it says Group A crime rate comparison, top 5 in 2023. So that's last year's numbers. And you'll see that there's county, police, and sheriff. So what that means is the county means county as a whole. That's county, so the sheriff's office, plus the law enforcement agencies locally. So that would be Osborne, Pinehurst, and Kellogg. Then you have police, which they've kind of put on their own here. And then you have sheriff, which just represents the sheriffs as an individual agency.
Mm-hmm.
So last year in 2023, Shoshone County was number 1 in reportable crime in the state of Idaho.
You see where she's looking? At the
Very
very
bottom.
very bottom in that center thing.
Right here, you see that we're
Yeah.
listed as the
Yeah.
first.
Okay.
So the sheriff's office, our sheriff's office, the Shoshone County Sheriff's Office was the number 1 in reportable crime. As a county, and that's just our office. As a county in whole, we were number 2. So that incorporates Kellogg PD, Osborne PD, and Pinehurst PD. Mostly Kellogg, they take a lot of crime. Now those crimes that we're reporting, those are actual arrests. Those are things such as any crime of violence against a person. So we're talking any sex crimes, any assaults, any batteries, drugs, things of this nature. One of the reasons why we made the top number 1 in Shoshone County, or in the state of Idaho last year, is because our drug arrests increased by 65%. Our drug equipment arrests increased by 45%. I think the drug arrests were 62%. So we made a significant increase in drug crime arrests, which is why our crime rate increased by 19%. Because if you look at all the other crimes, they remained about the same, which is like thefts or stolen vehicles, DUIs, things of this nature. They remained relatively pretty standard. It was the drug crime arrests that increased our crime rate to 19%. In 2024, so this last year's ranking, because this year's ranking won't come out until the end of the year, right? So last year, we were number 2 as the busiest sheriff's office in the state as far as reportable crime goes. And as a county in total, we dropped down to the 7th. So that's actually pretty good, because for the first time in several years, we're not in the top 2. So I have a couple other things for you here. I took all the counties and I kind of charted them to kind of give a better look at as a whole. And you'll have to, I apologize, Bannock County is mentioned on here twice because Bannock County, I slipped it in there on accident. It's Bannock County as a whole and then Bannock County Sheriff's Office. So there's actually one more county listed in there that shouldn't be.
Thank you.
Okay, so the first page is listing all of the counties, with Bannock being in there twice, so I apologize for that. The population of those counties, and it's not the population of the county, it's the population of the counties where, like, say, our county, the population is 8,292 because they're subtracting Kellogg and Pinehurst, etc. Then there's the offense total, so the total reportable crimes that we took and reported to the state. And then there's that third column, which is the clearance rate. Now, clearance rate for a sheriff's office means basically you've solved the crime. And they categorize it in a few ways. If the suspect dies, we get a clearance rate for that. So if they pass away, the crime is automatically cleared. If a victim refuses to press charges, the crime is automatically cleared. If we make an arrest on it, the crime is automatically cleared. And that's how, or if we refer it to the prosecutor's office for charges, the crime is cleared. And that's what they're measuring there. So if you flip to the next page, you'll see, hopefully it's in color there. Okay, you'll see the reportable crime comparison. All the counties are listed on the bottom. And at the very end of the page, you'll see a little green bar that represents Shoshone County over there, okay? So I made Shoshone County green. This is our reportable crimes. We had, let me look at the number here. We had 433 reportable crimes last year. So that green bar represents 433. As you scroll across the page here, from right to left, I guess, you'll see all the other counties and how we actually had more crime than they did in their county. And then you'll see the larger counties are all in red. There's one, Valley County and Cassie County. They're not that big, I don't think. I have to look at the population. But they actually did get more than us as far as crime goes, but you'll see that most of the counties that had more reportable crime are actually the bigger counties like Kootenai County, Ada County, Canyon County, etc. So that just kind of gives you an idea of where we fall as far as our reportable crime compared to the other counties. If you flip to the next page, it'll go into our clearance rates. So all the counties are listed here. Ours is in green. We had 80.8% clearance rate. And there's only 2 other counties that got a higher clearance rate than us. Oneida got an 81% clearance rate, and Nez Perce got an 81% clearance rate. So basically what that means is our team is doing their job. They're putting people away, they're filing charges, they're making arrests. It's a very impressive clearance rate. I mean, compared to the rest of the counties in the state of Idaho, we're number 3. And I'd like to say that that is a direct result of being able to retain staff that have experience, because our staff is anywhere from 5 to 8, some to 10 year experience now. The last page is just a population comparison with the other counties. Again, our Shoshone County there is in green. The other ones, the blue ones, I just forgot to turn the color, or let's see. No, the blue ones represent population that's lower than ours. The tan colored have a higher population, and then of course the red is the counties that are the higher population counties and the higher crime rate counties. That just gives you an idea where we fit in that. So basically, at the end of the day, Shoshone County, there's only 2 counties with the I-90 running through it, and that's our county and Kootenai County. And with I-90 running through it, it does bring in a lot of extra people. And the fact that we're a tourism community brings in a ton of tourism, which is additionally people. Having 2 major rivers obviously brings in a ton of people that we're dealing with in the summer times. So I figure that is an important point. Captain, we're going to start talking about patrol, so if you have anything you want to include as I'm speaking, please feel free to interrupt me and do so. Oh, thank you. So basically, since I've worked at the sheriff's office since 2004, we've had 2 major budget cuts in that time. And in that time, we laid off several deputies. There was a reduction in force, and so several deputies were laid off. I can't remember the exact total, so you'll have to bear with me on that. Historically speaking, when we've had a reduction in force, what happens is the workload that we do have, if we don't reduce it, you can only do less with less. You can't maintain or do more. So with that in mind, that's why this sheet was created. Understanding that if we're cut by 6 deputies, we can only do less with 6 deputies. On top of that, when you cut 6 deputies, the workload that we do have becomes overbearing for the people who remain. Also, with our thumb on the pulse of our employees, I know that if they see no future in working here as far as being able to get competitive wages or being able to afford their bills, they're not going to stay. They're going to go where the money is, and that is 30 miles that way. 35 miles, maybe 40, I don't know. And so when we start losing deputies because of a RIF, in this case 6, more will come. Historically speaking, before we had our raises, we always had 4 vacancies in patrol. It was always the number 4 that we had in vacancies. So with the reduction in force, I've pretty much made this service reduction to reflect the amount of deputies we will lose, because we will lose the deputies. We already know that because we've already talked to them. And it's by no means a threat. It just is the way it is. Like, there's nothing I can do about it. So with the reduction in force, the first deputies to resign are your top performers. So the ones that are the most experienced, they're going to resign first because they're not going to take a bigger workload with no pay increases in the last 3 years. And they're just going to go to work somewhere else. That's probably a good 4 deputies right there. And it'll happen just like that. That's the way it goes. Once one person does it, more will follow. And that's happened at our sheriff's office twice during the last time we were cut. We'll lose the ability to have more than one deputy on per shift. Typically we have 3. 2 assigned, we have 1 assigned to one end of the county, 1 assigned to the other. We'll have a Wallace deputy because we're getting contracted for that. And then typically we have a supervisor float who floats to help take relief call volume or to help supervise less experienced deputies. I will point out that with the loss of 6 deputies, immediately we start to lose 1 full-time supervisor of road deputies who are out taking calls but also supervising. It would be like the loss of one of those. They would have to take a full shift to begin with.
So the 6 includes the supervisor?
No,
No, it's
it
5.
just changes the way that things are scheduled. So right now you'd have supervisors that are floating to help either relieve call volume or supervise employees to make sure they're, because they're supervising newer employees or employees with lesser experience, so they're helping with that. We would no longer have 2 sergeants. We would have 2 sergeants, but one would have to take a full shift. Okay.
And on that, we have roughly 60% supervisory individuals on right now during shifts, which we're trying to up with the corporate positions and so on. With that, with people going on sick leave and vacation, it would decrease even further to where supervisors actually being out at all times would decrease. We're not sure what that number would be.
And how many do you have currently, deputies?
And 19.
19?
That's including the captain, not including Lance
Okay.
and myself.
We're down 1.
Oh, 19 positions.
Okay,
Yeah, sorry.
And so you have 18 right now.
you have 18.
Okay.
Have a position we haven't been able to fill for quite a while.
So we'll lose the ability to have more than one deputy on per shift. Depending on how the trickle effect goes and how fast it goes, we may lose the ability to patrol 24 hours a day. So what that looks like, we've had to do it in the past. You have a deputy who's on call. In progress call comes on. They leave from wherever the on-call is, and they go handle it. But you wouldn't see 24-hour patrols.
Can I go back to number 2?
Yes.
So if we lose the ability to have more than one deputy, right now we have 1 on each end of the county and 1 here in Wallace. So now we've got 1 covering the whole county.
Correct. To include the St. Joe.
Okay, so we got 1 person covering the St. Joe and the whole valley.
Correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure we were clear on what you were talking about. Thank you.
You're welcome. So we would lose the ability to patrol 24 hours a day, having deputies on call. And to be honest, I don't even really know what that looks like. I'd have to research it a little bit to see what other agencies are doing that are also getting their funding cut. We'd be unable to respond to non-criminal or not in progress calls for service. So basically what happens is when you have, are you okay, sir?
I don't think so. Sorry.
Do you need help? We'd be unable to respond to non-criminal or non-in-progress calls. And the reason for that is if you have 1 deputy on and you have a car crash, you have 1 deputy on, you have a domestic in progress, things like that, they're going to be handling priority 1 calls as a constant. And when that happens, the non-criminal, non-priority calls go to the wayside. Especially if you don't have people to pick them up. So some examples, there's so many different types of calls. I'm trying to generalize it here, so please bear with me. Some of those would be, for example, if a call came in for a domestic dispute not in progress, so say it happened last night, we may not respond to that. They might just have to come up to the sheriff's office and most likely they would get a report number. Civil disputes. A lot of the calls that we do get are civil complaints. They're called the voter calls. Those are the people who go to work every day and who pay their taxes and things like that. Those are the people who call for civil standbys, things of this nature. So any civil disputes we would not respond to. Any civil standbys we would not respond to. Suspicious circumstances, like if somebody called up and say, hey, this guy's pretty suspicious, we probably wouldn't be able to respond to that. We wouldn't have the people to do that. It's not a crime in progress. It's not a crime to be suspicious. VIN inspections, we would not be able to respond to those anymore. I mean, there's just so many of them. It just wouldn't be able to happen. Parking complaints, when people call in and complain about cars being parked the wrong way, or, you know, things of this nature, unless it would be blocking a roadway, we wouldn't respond to that. Noise complaints, animal complaints, blights, of course, neighborhood disputes, probably not. Targeted traffic enforcement, so when citizens call in and say, hey, there's a lot of speeding cars on this road during this time, that's not something that we'd be able to accomplish anymore. During the summer months, we assign deputies to the Coeur d'Alene River and the St. Joe River. We would not be able to do that. As a matter of fact, we would not respond to the Coeur d'Alene River or the St. Joe River just because we wouldn't have the manpower to do so. The only time we would respond there is if there's a crime in progress happening. We just simply wouldn't have the manpower to do any proactive work there. Do you have anything to add about that, sir?
On that, no.
Okay. Now let's get into contracts. We do a lot of contracts and grants, and I'm pretty confident we would not be able to continue with our contracts. We wouldn't have the people to do so. I promised the mayor of Wallace that I would not do a contract with her unless I could actually fulfill it, because there's been sheriffs in the past who take the money and don't put a position in Wallace, and I refused to do that. I told her, if I'm unable to put a deputy in Wallace that actually does the work of Wallace, if they're going to pay us $130, whatever it is, $2,000 a year, we're going to give them a deputy. I'm not sure that we could do that. I don't think that we could fulfill the BLM Forest Service contract. That's $18,000 right there for the Forest Service and the BLM. We wouldn't be able to fulfill the Smelterville, Wardner, Mullen contracts. That's an additional like $104,000. We definitely wouldn't be able to fulfill the Wallace contract. That's $132,000. As far as generating more income, we work a lot of grants in order to pay for equipment and to pay for a salary of a deputy. We would not be able to work those grants. And I don't have a number of what that would cost and a loss of revenue for us, or I guess it's not technically revenue, but income. I don't have that number, but it is significant. Another massive impact would be the city of Kellogg is the only city police in Shoshone that patrol their city 24/7. So Osborne is not on 24/7, 7 days a week, 365, and Pinehurst does not either. They only have 2 police officers. So when they're not working, we take their call volume. And I've calculated what the call volume is. We take more calls in the city of Osborne than the Osborne police do. We take more calls in the city of Pinehurst than the Pinehurst police do. We would no longer be able to do that. The only calls we would be able to take is in progress crimes.
Do they pay us for that?
No, they do not.
Because they're part of the county, is that?
It's part of, they're part of the county,
But-
just like
but-
I-9.
But you're only required you're only required to do
Handle,
in progress.
like in progress crimes of violence,
Okay.
property.
Okay.
Mhm. Anyway, it would be a significant impact on the public, because when the public calls, they just expect the police. They don't care what color uniform they're wearing, and we wouldn't be able to respond to those calls. One big one for me is we'd really be unable to participate in any public outreach, and public outreach is crucial for law enforcement to build trust with the community, because when we have trust with the community, when they know something about somebody or a crime, they call us and they talk to us, and that's how we end up doing a lot of these operations we are doing, is because the public trusts us to take care of it. And without being able to do a lot of public outreach, I just wouldn't have the deputies to do it. And I think people really get sick of seeing my mug and Lance's mug out there. It really does reduce our ability to combat crime in targeted areas, because people are just not going to call. They don't know who we are. especially if what they know of us is that we're not performing at the capacity that they're used to. We would be unable to maintain a rapid action team, our RAT team, and I'll have the captain speak to that, if you would, sir.
Yeah, so the Rapid Action Team is a team that trains on urban tactics and non-urban tactics, but to go into more extremely or potential violent situations. And what you see with those types of teams is typically they're your best shooters, your best physically fit people, and they're also your highest trained. So what happens across the country when those teams are implemented and used for these scenarios is you actually see chance of death actually plummet. So in any situation where you have like a suicidal standoff or anything like that, if you have a lesser trained deputy or officer, they're more likely to either shoot the suspect or get shot themselves than having a team like this. So this allows us to more safely, which I'll go into here in a little bit with the drug raids we've been doing, implement those things without deputies or suspects getting hurt and civilians.
Okay. We would not be able to continue our SCSO drug task force team or the Shoshone County Drug Task Force team. Would you speak to that, sir?
Yes. So prior to these last 2 years, my understanding is there's approximately one search warrant on a drug house or drug lab or whatever it may be was occurring per every 2 years. And initially we wanted to stop being the top 5 in crime across multiple factions. So we implemented this approach. So that did skyrocket the drug arrests and things at the start, but now you're starting to see us fall in those crime stats, which was the purpose. So
which is actually 24% reduction in crime this year.
So we performed, there's been some long-standing, a lot of citizens already know of houses all over the county. The massive majority of all our work was local. And we did approximately 20 search warrants on homes, which is a thousands of % increase of what we were doing prior. Some of the more well-known ones would be the weapons manufacturing lab that showed evidence of being shipped into gang members, the methamphetamine drug lab that was actually creating meth here, the thrift shop in Pinehurst that was selling drugs right next to a school, and so on. And there's numerous accounts of that, and a ton of children being brought out of these homes and places as well. I think the last one we did just outside of Pinehurst, which was in the county land, but just outside of Pinehurst, at least 7 children were staying there at the time. And also with that, some more ability to find children that are being abused. We've been able to investigate a lot of child abuse cases lately as well.
Because where there is drugs, there is?
Tends to be poor conditions for children, yes.
Yes. Thank you, sir. So the manpower that we provide to the task force is about 60% of the task force. As I stated earlier, the task force increased our drug arrests by 62% and increased our drug equipment arrests by 45% in 2023. As a direct result, crime has reduced in Shoshone County by 24.5% this last year, 2024. So currently, moving on, currently we have a traffic enforcement position that's paid for by grants. We would no longer be able to work that grant and no longer have that. I didn't bring the DUI numbers with me, but that traffic enforcement position has taken a lot of drunk drivers off the roadways. Let's see here. One of our mandates that we're required to do as a sheriff's office is have a search and rescue team ready to respond to search and rescue incidents. It is mandated by the state. We pretty much have 4 people who operate the search and rescue team, and those are our top performers, which are the ones that are most likely to leave, leaving us in a very poor position to adequately respond to search and rescue responses. Basically, to sum it up, for patrol, my fear is that, as I said, we've already talked to our staff, our team. We do have our thumb on the pulse of it, and if they see no future in staying here, they won't. And what ends up happening is a trickling effect of deputies leaving to work for Kootenai County, Post Falls, or Coeur d'Alene, and It's happened twice already. Yeah, I just lost my train of thought on that. I'll get back to it
You
though.
mentioned that it's happened before, so
Yes.
we have been at this where we didn't respond to anything but ongoing crimes?
Yes,
When was
we.
the last time?
That was in 2006, and it was after I'd been there working there for 2 years. And what we did was we stayed home until we had a call for service, and then we would respond from home.
No.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I'm going to talk about the jail. Did you have anything to add about the patrol?
No.
Anything to add before I move on?
Just the courthouse security position as well. Currently, we're already getting stretched thin, having to come over all the time with deputies monitoring different events. So it'd be a response only rather than a position, patrol deputies there for the court hearings.
And also, the thing is when you have deputies that are trickling off, that trickle effect, what it does is it shifts all of the command and supervisory to move down, right? So as people start to leave, and that's usually your top performers, so that's usually your sergeants, not just the sergeants, but a lot of the deputies. As they leave, the sergeants that we have, if they stay, they'll take a deputy position and work a deputy position. The lieutenant would then shift down and take a sergeant position. And the reason why those are vital is, the sergeants are making sure that our liability and officer safety, our liability is reduced, our officer safety is increased, and public safety is increased. That's their job while they're out there on the road. The lieutenant supervises the sergeants plus works a shift. Maybe you should explain this. You probably do it better.
So the sergeants are watching the patrol teams day to day, mentoring each individual deputy as they grow in their career, because it takes about 5 years to create a well-formed deputy. The lieutenant, particularly with our structure, to cover all of our time frames, you actually need 4 sergeants. We can't afford that, so thus the lieutenant takes on a sergeant role and oversees the sergeants and instructs them and trains them as well, because they're just that next tier up, so they need trained as well in the things that we need. And then I take over all liability for patrol, and then I do the 1 to 3 year approach to that, like how do we reduce crime trends and so on and so forth, and then I give my recommendation to the sheriff.
And as people start trickling out, all of those duties just kind of shift downward until eventually the captain's working a shift. The undersheriff is captaining. I am doing the office management. It just all shifts. It starts to shift. And at the end of the day, the continuity of operations just plummets. All right, I'm going to move on to the jail. So the SCSO has had 3 vacant positions for the jail for approximately 1 year. We have a few applications pending. It's pending the physical fitness and the backgrounds and all of those things.
We were down more than that for a long time.
We were down 4
we
positions.
Just finally got a couple hired, but
one of the reasons why we can't attain a jail certification is because of our staffing. There's 2 things. Our staffing, we don't have 2 people on it all at the same time. That's an automatic fail.
Mm-hmm.
And overcrowding. The overcrowding I can't do much about at the moment. Obviously, the lack of staffing is an officer safety issue, and it is a liability issue. If we lose 6 deputies and then the trickle effect of people leaving pops in, we're no longer going to be able to use patrol to supplement in the jail. And as it is right now, we're having difficulty covering shifts along with guarding at the hospital, along with transporting. It's kind of like everybody's pitching in, and as we start losing people, workload gets more, and being able to pitch in gets less and less. So with the cut of 6 patrol deputies, we wouldn't be able to use patrol to help in the jail anymore. With the situation in jail is already dire with the staffing, not being able to hire anybody. I mean, people just aren't applying at the jail. But it's not just a Shoshone County issue. It's a nationwide issue, but it's also a Kootenai County issue. They're having the same problems. We tend to have to make up what we lack in staff by hiring a security company to help guard or transport. The security company has a requirement of 2 guards per transport and it's roughly about $88 per guard, so it's about $176 an hour just to transport or guard inmates, and that's a very high number at the end of the day. And what I've figured out is, you know, we met with all of our teams, and with the pulse of the jail, you know, we told them that there's a possibility of a serious cut, and people are most likely not going to stick around without a future. If they're going to keep making the same pay every year, they're not going to stay. It would take the loss of 3, actually probably 2 people. If we lose 2 more people, we would have to start looking at shutting the jail down and starting to transport inmates. There's only so much we can do as far as trying to cover shifts.
What's that do to our income with the jail if we shut it down? We would
I'm
lose
sure.
that additional income, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
I don't know what the number is, though.
Yeah, we've been bringing in close to $400,000 a year in state inmates that they're all inmates that we sentence that are sitting here, but it'll just it would have a trickle effect to where you would end up having all your inmates would have to get transported to somewhere else, and the other county would get paid. Well, we would be paying them probably $100 a day plus per inmate, and then they would get the income from the state inmates too.
So how many inmates do we have right now?
Around 50.
50?
I think that's the exact number today.
That's about average, right?
Yes, that's average right now.
So part of the problem, commissioners, is right now, including the captain, we have 9 deputies. Let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 of those deputies are in training, so they can't even work by themselves. We can't have them guarding, we can't have them transporting. And they still have to go to post and pass, which we've had difficulties in the past with people being able to make it through post. Mostly it's the physical fitness, which we've been working on relentlessly. But the jail is already a dire situation. And they're basically losing, they feel like they're not valued, and they feel like nobody cares about them. And they don't want to stay stagnant because they can't afford to. That's basically what it comes down to. And they will leave and go to work where they can make a lot more money in Kootenai County. Captain, do you have anything you want to add about the jail?
Yeah, possibly a couple things. You know, right now, I have just enough deputies this month to have 2 on a shift. Next month, I have 1 that's going to be gone for over 30 days on a medical. And so that's putting me back in the jail. And I'm not above working in the jail, but that then keeps me from helping the jail move forward. Strategic planning and coming up with a lot of other ideas to move us forward, down to reviewing policy and procedures and make sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to.
I'd say quality assurance with
Quality
your
assurance.
team, yeah.
And then we're unsure come October, and I'll be getting the 1 deputy back, I believe, October 14th. I think October 16th I have 1 for sure going to post, so that's going to bring us back down, possibly 2. And what that does is, you know, if one of my deputies gets sick, injured, traumatic experience, that's putting 1 deputy on a shift, obviously, and a lot more hours worked. And it's just getting to the point, you know, talking to my deputies, it's starting to, it's pushing them. We're pushing them to the limits. We're required to, when somebody's in custody and they have to go to the hospital, which happens a lot, and at least once, if not 3 times a week, we have somebody go to the hospital. We had 2 people go to the hospital last night. And we're required 24/7 when they're in our custody, they're under our protection. So I have to send a deputy there with them to make sure that that inmate is safe, and nobody else gets hurt. Now, if I'm down to one deputy, who does that leave to go with that inmate in the ambulance? But there's times where we'll have one deputy at the hospital watching an inmate who's getting a checkup, and it takes hours, and then all of a sudden I need another deputy the same night to take another inmate to the hospital. I don't want to go down a bunch of rabbit trails today, but I'm just kind of trying to paint a picture and put things in perspective for everybody on just one thing, and there's probably 100 other things that we could talk about.
Yeah, you add into it the mentally ill inmates we have right now. We probably have 6 that are seriously mentally ill right now. One who's been in an isolation cell for off and on for months. Covered.
2 in
I don't even want to say
isolation cell.
bad.
Yeah, noticed that on our jail inspection.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So basically, to sum it up, with a $930,000 cut, or approximate that, whatever at the end of the day would be, the citizens would definitely not receive the same service they've become accustomed to, and it's not because we don't want to, it's because we would not be capable of doing it.
And it looks like if it continued, then we have other areas where we would start to lose income. So
Yes, sir.
it would spiral. So it's a serious problem.
I just wanted to show you guys too, kind of where, when the Justice Fund was created, where we were at versus 4 budgets later, where we would be sitting. And just to show that the Justice Fund's been the same since 2022. It had that where it went up in 2023 and then right back down. And then with the cuts, we'd be about $1 million under where we were in 2022. And even without the cuts, that'd be pretty much a 0% increase in the Justice Fund in 4 years.
I believe that was a 13% inflationary increase at the same time over those years. It combined between all the years.
Does anybody else have anything to add before I give up the floor?
Today she did.
Okay.
Any
Thank you.
questions? Anybody else have any questions? Any questions? Not at this point. Clerk?
I'm concerned about the second wave of losses, which you've done a good job of outlining here. The city contracts, all the other things that will spiral, and then 6 months to a year down the road, we're looking at another $500,000 short. And one deputy for a county our size on a shift just doesn't seem like we're giving the citizens much protection.
Mm-hmm.
It's not safe. It's not safe for the citizens, it's not safe for the deputies.
Yeah.
And I just don't feel like it's something that we should ask them to do.
Which is also going to wear on their attrition if they're alone all the time.
Correct.
Okay. Anything further? Okay. Public questions?
Just comments. The contracts you mentioned, we lose money on. The Wallace contract and the Smellville. I don't know about the Warner. I've never looked into that one. So my other question would be, so if we lose people patrolling, are the cities going to reciprocate the kindness that we've done to them and come into the county and deal with our people, or they won't come in?
That would have to be conversations to have with the chiefs.
because we've been doing it for years, you would think the cities would do it, reciprocate it back to us. Cause we go in for a lot of different things, and I don't think we have to for everything. The last one I have is on the budget worksheet for the sheriff's office. I've asked about this for years. What is the Wallace contract per diem? It's not much, it's $3,000, but why are we paying money to the city of Wallace for a contract that we're performing?
That was, we weren't paying it to Wallace. That started off as just money put aside for the Wallace contract to, if we had any expenditures. We ended up giving it to we don't know if we still will or not, but we ended up giving it as a benefit to the Wallace deputy to encourage them to eat at the businesses, have coffee at the businesses, because we wanted to be part of the community. And Wallace wanted a deputy who was actually part of the community and socialized, so they got, I can't remember what it was, like $100 a month or something to, because we never spent it before. It was there for a few years, and then.
Yeah, I think previous sheriffs used it to pay for cell phones.
Yeah.
What I have is it's per diem. So.
Yeah, we ended up. We haven't given it all out. It's like 100 or 150. I can't remember exactly per month.
150 a month, 450 1 month, then 150, 150, 150, 150, 150.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Questions?
Comment.
Comment?
And please correct me if I'm wrong, but the sheriff and the undersheriff have served their posts. They're fully fledged to do everything in the sheriff's department. And yet we're saying, you're proposing that you're going to lose 6 deputies and possibly lose more with the budget cuts. And yet neither of you will patrol unless there's an urgency and a matter that you've got to get out there right now on an extremely important call, but yet you won't just take a call or go out and patrol. And if I'm wrong, please correct me, and I know your position is a hard position, I'm not making light of it, but it's frustrating that we have a sheriff or undersheriff that, and I get your positions, I get the ranking, but if we're down people, why can't you patrol? Or, and again, if I'm not getting all my information and I'm just whatever, but why is it that you don't do that?
Like I said, as things start to shift, everything shifts. Just for example, with the shortage in the jail, we've been working jail shifts to cover jail shifts.
You and the undersheriff?
Absolutely. If it gets to the point where we lose that many people, yeah, you'll see us out there patrolling because there's no other way to make it happen.
Copy that.
And do you mind giving it from my perspective, because I'm not in their chairs obviously, is they manage 50 people roughly, to where I don't, most of us in the area have had experience with bigger companies at some point and seen what it takes to manage 50 people, and the amount of just personnel issues combined with investigations, combined with federal investigations, combined with IAs and such. It's very difficult, if not impossible, to be out there patrolling regular shifts and actually being like if I'm looking at it from a patrol captain perspective and they come out to help with the patrol shift, then I mean this no offense whatsoever, because they're getting pulled away constantly, they wouldn't be much good to me in a patrol shift as far as covering calls and stuff, as far as releasing the workload. If I explain that well.
No, thank you. But as it stands now, if something's popping off, we respond to it. If we don't have to respond to it, we don't, because we have a team to do that. I know that a lot of people say, oh, you're never out patrolling. I mean, as the captain said, yeah, there's other things that need to be done, but that doesn't mean that we don't go out and respond to calls or patrol areas or gulches or anything like that. So, but like I said, as we start losing people, I mean, everything shifts down. We'll have to do the best we can. And I will do the best that we can, but I can only do so much with so much time. But I appreciate your comment on that.
And a question I pose, if I may, and I don't know, am I allowed to?
You just had 2 minutes. I'm sorry.
No worries.
Next.
Good.
You good? Good.
So, just roughly running the numbers, if you have 18 and you go down to 12 deputies, if you have 2 deputies for a day shift and 2 deputies for a night shift, that's 4. They could run 4 10s with an hour lacking in between. And then your next, like, they could run Monday through Thursday. And then your Friday through Sunday, you could run, all of them run 10-hour shifts, which would run into a Monday. And then that would still leave you 4 deputies left over to fill in for sick, the jail, court, vacation, and that would leave you and Lance also to continue doing your jobs. So I think maybe it's just a scheduling on how they run their shifts. I'm not sure. That's just what just 2 minutes of kind of writing it down and thinking about it. If that was to come to it, you could still run 2 deputies throughout the county. So in a week's time, you would have 4 deputies left over to fill in other places, do a Wallace contract or whatever. But that's what I do. I manage 50, 60 people. So scheduling and stuff is my forte.
So with, just for example, the last raid we did with that took the amount of hours and time just for that one residence was astronomical. So that would be, if everything went absolutely perfectly, it just doesn't work that way in policing. When a call comes out instantly, and that's the detective too, who's also on patrol, we delegate this much resources to a child that was just beaten within an inch of her life, rather than having exactly the amount of staffing out there through those times.
But ISP will come in and help you guys with investigations and raids, and I've seen that.
So they're not even here.
We don't have a ISP locally anymore like we used to.
But I think ISP was just in here in a meeting and said that they would assist.
They do assist on certain things, not all things.
And I know Kellogg, I've seen you guys all get with Kellogg, all you guys go out
That's
together.
our, yeah, we do, yeah. The scheduling just gets a little more complicated than throwing a bunch of numbers down and making sure certain times are covered, because you have to also consider sick time, admin time, like administrative leave for investigations. You have to consider training requirements. You have to consider, we can't allow people to work. If they've worked X amount of hours, we can't allow them to work for X amount of hours. There's all these things that you have to take into consideration. But if you want to sit down with me, I'm totally willing to do that. I'm always open to ideas. It's not as simple as throwing numbers down on a piece of paper and covering the hours. It doesn't work that way in law enforcement.
Okay.
But I am open to ideas.
Questions? Questions?
So I was wondering why this meeting actually took place, because in the last meeting I asked you about the budget on approaching you guys making a decision on what the cuts are and what the cuts aren't. And it doesn't sound like you guys made the decision to cut $900,000 out of the budget.
When we didn't cut, they just presented what it would look like. That's basically what this is
So that's
we're
the
not
clerk
making
presenting the number, saying that you need to cut the budget by this much amount. So if you're saying you haven't done that, this is a waste of a meeting.
I don't believe it's a waste of a meeting.
Well, you haven't made the decision to cut that.
Yeah, we haven't made any decision. We're
So
just
why
looking
are we
at
having
it.
This meeting right now about
We're
cutting
looking at it.
$900,000 out of the budget.
This is because we're all looking at it. I mean, this is, the clerk has done her job and she's, put out numbers, and so we're just looking at them.
You guys are making a decision right now. You're saying, hey,
No, we're not making a decision.
So,
Not today.
Not today.
so why are we cutting $900,000 out of the Justice Fund?
Let me try. We aren't. The clerk, and some numbers that we hope to get better explanation tomorrow on where we are, has shared with the Sheriff's Department that she thinks they would need to cut approximately that to make the budget work. We are hearing from the Sheriff's Department on what a cut like that would do to the department. Now we've got to go back to the drawing board. Tomorrow we're with the clerk to hear where we are, to try and figure out how much we do have to cut. We have heard from the Sheriff's Department. Now we've been educated on what a cut like that would do catastrophically to the Sheriff's Department. So the decision making will have to come after tomorrow's meeting in my mind, because we still have to hear where we are. So this was
saying you're working backwards right now.
And that is how it feels every year at the county.
Well, the beginning of the budget should have been, this is the money we have, these are my priorities that I wanna pay for, and that's the budget I'm gonna set.
And I know
We're not
we've
doing
discussed
that right
that before, so, yeah. But that's my best shot at explaining to you what we're trying to do.
I get it, you guys haven't been given the money of how much you actually have to spend, so you can delegate how much needs to be spent and what your priority is. Is it public safety the priority that needs to be cut 900,000, or is the general fund itself needs to be cut by a certain amount? So now we're working backwards.
Our neighbors have given us, through their tax money, $5.6 million. That's what our tax levy is.
That's the property tax. That's not the full tax that you get. You get $17 million.
Right.
So
Which is,
it's the county commissioner's position to decide where they put that $17 million at.
Okay, but the other taxes, the taxes are split
The
from.
county commissioners decide how the
Like,
taxes are split.
please, let her speak, please.
We've had this
So I
conversation
could-
many times.
Damien,
Well,
I
if you've
could
had the
give-
conversation, then we don't need to be arguing in here. We wanna get through this and try to figure out where we're at. I mean, that's what we're trying to do, so.
I do want to point out that in 23 to 24, that Lance gave you, the reason that was a dramatic cut in that month was because of the public defense. That was our cut. That's like 600. They were like $630, $630,190. That was, out of that was public defense, because our budget for them, because we had public defenders and we got public defender money to ensure that. They then, the state then took over the public defenders. So we kept the next year 75,000 of that money to roll over for the following year to fund public defense, because we were not sure. It was all brand new. The state didn't know how it was going to work with public defense. They were going to pay the majority, but they didn't think they would pay for it all. And then it went as far as saying, when we run out of money, then it's on to the county to pick up the rest. And essentially that's kind of what we're hearing again this year. However, they did not run out of money. They run a different payroll than we do, or fiscal year, excuse me. So I think we'll be fine. But I did keep, out of that 75,000, I rolled over 55,000 for this ensuing year budget for public defense, because there are things that we do have to pay for out of there.
Okay. I just want to make one comment on that same issue. From 23 to 24, if you look, you'll also see that the current expense went up 650,000.
23 and 24?
Yeah, that's because we added Viva back in. Yeah, that's because we added the Viva. No, that was 24, 25. I'd have to look.
Okay. All right.
Comments over here.
Any other comments?
I've got some questions.
Okay.
What percentage of your guys' budget does that 930,000 represent?
Is it 20?
It's 18%. Yep.
18%.
Is that, with schools lose SROs?
Yes.
How many SROs do you guys have? Just 2 right now, or?
We have one full-time, one part-time.
And
It would be the full-time.
Is it cost share between you guys and the school? Is that how it works?
Yeah. We've already determined we're cutting the full-time one, just due to the contract only covering half of it. We can't.
So
we already determined we couldn't keep facilitating that other half of that cost.
Gotcha. So is he gonna be part-time there or not at all?
Not at all.
Okay. just so I'm clarifying, crime rate goes up, not necessarily because we have more criminals, but because response got better?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
And that's why you watch that huge drop after that.
Okay.
And it's clear in the numbers if you look up the Idaho State stats for 2022, 23,
Okay.
24.
Okay.
It shows it right there, all the different crimes.
And if, cause like, I know Nez Perce County just cut their jail entirely.
You mean
was it Nez Perce?
Lake
Latah, sorry. What, if we were to do that in a bad situation, and Kootenai County was full, where would we be transporting prisoners? And like, we lose out on that revenue, but then do we also have to cover transport costs to
Actually,
and from for like court dates and things like that?
the undersheriff looked into that, and he can speak to that.
Yeah, so in my prior experience in the sheriff's conference, there's a few smaller jails that, really small, that run it like we would have to. And what it entails is you still have to staff a temporary holding facility. And so that has to be 24-hour staffed. On top of that, you need transport. So you make it to where you can hold prisoners for like 48 hours or less. So there's less requirements. But that still has to be staffed 24/7. You still have to triage the immediate medical needs, that kind of stuff. But then you transport them and literally you have a transport team that literally works Monday through Friday, and they transport prisoners as they get arrested every day. They transport prisoners there, bring them back. We can hold them for up to 48 hours for court, and so on. And it's just back and forth. And I know Kootenai won't take them because they're struggling with staffing. I haven't checked with Nez Perce. Nez Perce Latah just shut their jail down. So in contract with Nez Perce, and probably part of that, their reasonings were conditions of the jail and all that. They just had to shut it down. So, but that's a long drive every day. We'd just be literally shuttling back and forth.
And we'd be on the hook for the hours to transport, the maintenance on the vehicles,
Yes.
and the wages.
Yes.
Probably be on the hook for the medical too, right?
Yes.
Oh yeah, we'd have to pay all the medicals.
It's still kind of the, Anybody else? Any other questions? Okay.
Well, if the $960,000 is too much to cut from the sheriff's budget, what amount would be, you'd be willing to cut to run your department, if that's too much?
Based on the numbers that we have now, once we get numbers, once we see where we're at, we'd have to look at that. That's just not an area we are willing to go to yet because we've been cut every year.
Yeah, but
every single year.
You weren't cut last year, were you?
Yeah. Yeah.
We cut a detention position.
All right. There's nothing further. Any other question? No, nothing further. Thank you. I appreciate you guys coming in. Any other questions?
No.
Nothing? Okay. We're adjourned.
All right.
Thank you guys.
Commissioners.